right, we got Will Gunter on the line talking South Carolina football. You can join Will on the all-new early game, 107.5 The Game in Columbia, South Carolina. The SEC recruiting ranking right now with exactly 1 week to the early signing day, which we learned in 2017 has become the most prominent of the two signing days, with about 75 to 80% of the Power 5 slots being filled. It's a class that ranks 11th in the SEC according to 247 Sports, but it's still a top 25 class, and that's, again, as we've talked about many times, Will, the plight of teams in the SEC. You can be top 25 in the nation and barely top 10 in your own conference. But what do you like about this South Carolina class?
You know, it's crazy. It really is. What you just said.
It is crazy.
This is conceivably, and right now, if things stood today, is the best class. I don't know what rankings you're using. I'll go by 247 Sports.
That's what I've got up.
Yeah, they've got the average star ranking, and I'll look at that because that takes into account how good of the class you signed. South Carolina's is slightly above an 89. Slightly above an 89. It's right before an average 4-star ranking. If you took that into account, this would be the highest ranked class South Carolina's ever signed, and it's 11th in the SEC. Now, do I think they'll land a few players here down the stretch, and it'll get inside of the top 20? Yes, I do think that'll happen. They're sitting there with 16 commitments as of today. I don't know if the one you're looking at has Jamario Holly removed. Jamario Holly, a wide receiver, he's no longer a part of the class. But, you know, the bottom line is they're recruiting better than they ever have. What's funny is, and this is where it stinks, Georgia, a permanent opponent, Texas A&M, a permanent opponent each and every year, and Clemson, a permanent opponent, are all within the top 8 classes in the country. And so, yeah, you're recruiting. South Carolina's recruiting fine. They're bringing in better players. They have Zacch Pickens coming in, Ryan Helinski. Zacch Pickens, a 5-star defensive lineman. Ryan Helinski, a big-time quarterback. Kevon Mullins, a wide receiver out of the Memphis area. Cam Smith, a very good defensive back out of Columbia, South Carolina. They'll land a few more. You better have and listen, I covered recruiting. I did it. I ranked players. I've done everything in it. I'll tell you this, what it comes down to is the coaches that you have developing said player, because that's where things change. And that's why when South Carolina had its most success, they had very good coaches coaching average players. And I shouldn't say average, but average recruiting classes that were around 20. And that's where you got to have coaches that can elevate the talent that you bring into the fold.
So I'm looking at your class just in terms of the rankings that we just talked about, and 11th in the SEC, still ahead of just the group right behind. You've got a number of teams that have performed well in recent years or have a history, like NC State, Purdue, Michigan State, Wisconsin, the other USC, and Miami. They're ahead of those teams.
Doesn't matter. You don't play. Those teams aren't in your conference.
And I think it's great what you just pointed out about who they're playing. So initially the thought is you're 11th in the SEC, but you only see Alabama, LSU, Auburn right down the line of teams in the SEC Western Division outside of Texas A&M once every 6 years. But you do see Clemson and you do see Texas A&M and, of course, Georgia each and every year, 3 of the top 8. So that's a difficult deal. Well, are there any guys floating out there that have South Carolina on the short list that could make it an even better class?
Well, obviously, the top guy you're going to talk about is Chris Steele, the 4-star, 5-star defensive back out of California, who's basically down to South Carolina or Florida. Most people would be surprised if he went to anywhere else than there, although most people think he's leaning Florida. He's a 4 or 5-star prospect. Jayshon Sheffield, a 4-star wide receiver out of St. Simon Island, again in the Savannah area, is currently committed to Auburn. But a lot of talk that South Carolina, Will Muschamp, may be able to flip him here late in the process. Some talk that he actually may take an official visit this coming weekend. Tyrone Hopper, a linebacker out of Roswell, Georgia, again committed to Florida. A guy that South Carolina is heavily involved with. He's originally from the state of South Carolina. Maybe they can flip him. Johnny Dixon, a 4-star defensive back out of the state of Florida, is not committed to anywhere. Is down to South Carolina and Miami. is the guy that they're looking at and could land. Ja'Kai Moore, a 4-star, 3-star offensive lineman from the D.C., I believe the D.C. area, I could be wrong about that, is down to Penn State in South Carolina. The Gamecocks have an in-home visit coming up. So, yes, to answer your question, a lot of prospects that could push South Carolina kind of in. To be honest with you, I'm not saying they're going to land all 7 players, but there's a group of 7 players that I think South Carolina's got a chance to land. And if they were to land them, hypothetically speaking, because people are going to watch this and going to talk about, say, oh, that guy, he's a homer, he's crazy, he doesn't know what he's talking about. If they were to land those 7 players, and there's a chance, they could end up in the top 10 recruiting classes via 24/7 Sports if you use their class calculator.
It's pretty astounding. Would you be confident with like 4 or 5 of the 7?
And no, I don't think they'll land all 7, but again,
No, but I'm saying like 4 or 5 of the 7.
it's possible. It's recruiting. I've covered it. They're 16 to 17-year-old kids. Who knows what they're thinking?
Yeah, who knows indeed. I only know a little bit because I've raised 2 that have passed that age, and you're coming up on it. All right. Well, we appreciate you stopping by. It's been a long time, but it's good to see you. And we'll talk some South Carolina football, hopefully, with you in the future. If we can flag you down sometime around the end of this signing class in the next week or so, and then the bowl game.
Look forward to it. Obviously, it's a fun time of the year. Bowl game started this week. Signing day is what we're learning about signing day is next Wednesday, a week from tonight. And bowl games are always a lot of fun, so I look forward to it.